Welcome to this edition of Insights. And today I want to talk about igniting national prayer, specifically igniting that kind of prayer in our own hearts, but also corporately. And so my mindset here today is a corporate prayer meeting where we're igniting something and that we're getting on track with God's heart, and we're having, or I should say, experiencing greater faith, and we're seeing God tend or pay attention to our prayers. And so here's the simple insight for this week, and that is this. When it comes to this idea of igniting national prayer, we need to show up, we need to speak up, and we need to keep up. And so I hope that we can move in these three areas, again individually, but again this corporate idea. So this is really on my heart for a couple reasons. One, right now, as you're receiving this video, Renee and I are ministering in the Boston area. It's at a conference called Acquire the Fire, and the fire to see things change in our nation. I'm also thinking of igniting national prayer because a few weeks ago I participated in a couple of different prayer gatherings connected to the National Day of Prayer, the first Thursday of May every year. So this is on my heart. I want to get this out. And so number one is we need to show up. And basically, when we hear somebody calling people forth to gather, to pray, and specifically having this prayer emphasis on our nation, which will include our communities and our local churches, but will also have this broader scope of the entire nation. When somebody calls that, let's look at that as a sacred assembly. God is calling his people together. We need to seek him together. There's power in corporate prayer. And let's not go down that path of just simply saying, well, if I have free time, maybe I'll work it in. Or if I don't have anything else to do, or maybe I can just stay home and pray. There is power in corporate prayer. God smiles on this when we come together as his people. And so the first thing is to show up. Secondly, we need to speak up. And I don't know what this is, but I go to prayer times from time to time where people actually do show up, but then they're not saying anything. The whole point of corporate prayer is we come to have a conversation with the living God together while we're in agreement with each other, listening to each other's prayers, adding to each other's prayers, and completing each other's prayers, so to speak, and we're speaking up. And we're crying out to the Lord. I think that if we do anything less during a prayer time than really get dialed in with the heart of God and are crying out, I think we have fallen short in that prayer time. Just to show up and so we can say that we attended, that is not going to hit the sweet spot. We need to intercede. We need to speak up. Jesus taught us to pray by saying, ask, seek, and knock. In corporate prayer, that means everybody asking, everybody seeking, verbally, out loud, and then knocking on those doors, believing God for an answer. Third, we need to keep up. We need to keep up with who our national leaders are, who our government officials are, and we also need to keep up on what are the issues of the day and what these policymakers are doing. In other words, in 1 Timothy chapter 2, it says, pray for all of those in authority over you. When we're talking about igniting national prayer, we need to be praying for those over us, whether it's at the federal level with the president, the legislature, or the Supreme Court, or the president's cabinet. We need to be lifting people up, both their hearts, and that God would speak to their hearts, move their hearts, soften their hearts, as well as the policies, the decisions that we're making. So, in closing, we need to show up, we need to speak up, and we need to keep up. I look forward to being with you next week on Insights.